computer. Excellent. Now I'm going to share my screen so that we can start chapter 9, which is in some ways just more of the same, so to speak, in terms of what we're going to see, with bad predictions for the future, curses, etc. The second half has some somewhat unique curses and predictions. So we'll talk about that when we get there. And as always, welcome and encourage folks to share whatever you might have in your own books when we're learning today. Okay, so we begin with a very powerful commands or statement. Al tismach Yisrael. El gil ka'amim ki zanita me'al elokecha ahavta etnan al garnot dagan. Rejoice not, O Israel, as other peoples exult, for you have strayed away from your God. You have loved a prostitute's fee by every threshing floor of new grain. So what's going on here? It seems that the other nations would celebrate the harvest, right? Which of course is like where Sukkot comes from in a lot of ways. It's a harvest festival on the threshing floor, but that they would celebrate not with like nice meals and God-centered activities, but with lewd parties, drinking, prostitutes, etc. And so that is what the reference is here, that you have strayed and you are acting like the other peoples and engaging in this lewd behavior. Hence the reference to ahavta etnan, which is the prostitute's fee. Anyone have any comments on theirs that are good or interesting translations?
Footnote on mine.
Sorry, Janet, go ahead.
There's a footnote
on great.
Mine that says, like a harlot taking her fee in grain, you have prostituted yourself before the nations. So I guess sometimes prostitutes were paid not with cash, with money, but with grain. That was their fee for performing their job.
Right, and this could also be them coming to collect on past due, right? That it was promised then, which also, of course, I think, to me, that certainly evokes images of roots and all the complications and the sexual power dynamics that exist in that book and in those scenes. Great. Okay. Goren vayekev lo yiraim b'tirosh yichachesh ba. Threshing floor and wine press shall not join them, and the new wine shall betray her. Does anyone have any alternative translations here? Instead of your aim, meaning shall not join them, my guy says lo yafarnesem, it won't be enough to sustain them.
No.
No, you don't have that?
Fall short.
Fall short. Okay, great. Yeah, that would make more sense. Yeah. Great. Okay. That certainly makes more sense in context. All right. Lo yeshvu be'eretz Hashem v'shav Ephraim Mitzrayim uve'ashur tamei yochelu. They shall not be able to remain in God's land, but Ephraim shall return to Egypt and shall eat impure food in Assyria. So returning to Egypt, if folks remember from other in the Torah, is like the culmination of all of the curses is that you will have to go back to Egypt. So to say that is really to say that like things are going to come to the ultimate head, no warning. It's not that we're on a progression to the ultimate undoing, I guess, of the Exodus, but that we have arrived there fully.
It's like a reverse of the Exodus.
Yes, precisely. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I like the comment also, Uve Ashur Tamei Yochelu, right? Because Ashur is, it's not part of the threat in the Torah, but it is the actual concrete real life situation that they're dealing with right now. So I think that probably helps take it from the abstract into the very, very real. right? Because that's actually what's going to happen to them. All right. Lo yisku laHashem yain velo ye'ervu lo zivchehem kelechem onim lahem kol ochlav yitama'u ki lachmam lenafsham lo yavo beit Hashem. Okay, so it shall be for them like the food of mourners, all who partake of which are defiled. They will offer no libations of wine to God, and no sacrifices of theirs will please, but their food will be only for their hunger. It shall not come into the house of God. So you may have observed that they take a lot of liberty with rearranging the pasuk in the English translation and flipping the clauses around in order for it to make more sense. So does anyone have like a different translation from this one?
Mine is slightly different. This is from Rabbi Sachs.
Okay, great.
And it says, they will not pour wine in offering to the Lord, nor will their sacrifices find favor unto him. Like the bread of the grievers it will be. All of who will eat of it will be defiled, for their bread is merely to feed their hunger and will not be brought into the house of the Lord.
Beautiful. Okay, right. So that maintains, that preserves the order in the original Hebrew of the pasuk. Great.
I have a footnote also.
Mm-hmm.
Because they are brought without feelings of sincere contrition, God considers their offerings like food that is defiled by people who have had contact with the dead. And that's from Radak. And then I also have, they might as well save their money and eat the food themselves rather than offering it to God, who does not accept it. And that was from Rashi.
Got it. Oh, interesting. Okay, great. Excellent. Okay. Yeah, and that makes it worse. All right. So ma ta'asu leyom moed uleyom chag Hashem. What will you do about feast days, about the festivals of God? Let's just to focus back on the Hebrew, moed and chag are the days, the Yom Tov and the days of celebration and rejoicing, especially ones, like I said with the first verse, would correspond also to like our own, harvest festivals, etc. So it's like, what's gonna mata'asu? Like, what will you do about them? Where are they gonna go? So here the Dat Mikra, he says, Mikevan shebegola ein beit Hashem. Since in the exile, there is no house of God. The Navi asks those who've been exiled, what are you gonna do for Yontiv, right? How are you gonna celebrate this? How are you going to do the korbanot, right? Because of course, as of now, that's all they know in terms of celebrating the holidays. And so, it's like a rhetorical question. I mean, not rhetorical, but a question to them of how are you going to celebrate moving forward? Okay, so kihine halchu mishod mitzrayim mitikaptzeim mof tikabreim machmad lekasvam kimosh yirashem choach be'ahalehem. All right, you may have noticed this is a tough pasuk. So with different meanings, different possible meanings. So I am very eager to hear what you have. So let's see how the JPS translates it. Behold, they have gone from destruction, which means that actually, let me continue. With the silver they treasure, Egypt shall hold them fast, and Mof shall receive them in burial. Weeds are their heirs, prickly shrubs occupy their old homes. So once again, this translation rearranges the pasuk in English in order to try to have it make more sense. All right, so first hit me with other translations.
I have, for behold, they have gone away because of plunder. Egypt will gather them in, Mof will bury them. As for the treasure houses of their silver, thistles will inherit them, briars will grow in their tents.
Okay, interesting. Does anyone have showed kihine al-chumi showed me, behold, they've gone from destruction? Does anyone have that translated it as bosom?
No.
No, interesting. Okay, because showed, a lot of people associate it with destruction, hence that's why it's translated. But I also heard an explanation that it could be from Shadaim. I think it's the Malbim who said that. That and which means breast or bosom. So that this isn't just about they have gone from like Helchumisho, that they've gone on from destruction, but rather they have left the comfort of of the most basic child comfort, right, of their mother's bosom, and are now out unprotected, right, in the wild, so to speak, vulnerable to Egypt and Mof and all of those things. Sorry, yeah.
So I have a footnote that says that Radak interprets showed as famine.
Oh, interesting. Mm-hmm.
Which is more consistent with, didn't you say instead of destruction, it was like, well, I don't know. What else could showed mean?
Bosom.
Oh,
My guy
okay.
says it's a city in Egypt, and not Egypt, in Assyria. So that this is actually just saying you've gone from Assyria, you're going to go from Assyria to Egypt.
I think one of the translation was plunder. So shod is it's closer to plunder, the plunder of Egypt.
Yeah, my translation says that they have gone away because of plunder.
Yeah. So shod, the literal translation, but I don't know if it's a biblical translation, but literal is really plunder.
Well,
Because of plunder refer to Nebuchadnezzar plundering Judea and refer to the diaspora of Babylon then?
Well, that's why I'm wondering what it means to go from plunder, like what that would actually mean.
Because this is after Nebuchadnezzar, Hosea.
No,
right?
it's before.
But before.
Before, yeah.
And this is definitely past tense. It's written. It's not a prediction that they will go away.
Also good, right? I think that's probably why showed makes a lot of sense here. Yeah.
My translation says plunder, but there's a footnote about famine. And there's also a comment about the plunder from Nebuchadnezzar, except just to make things more complicated, I have it in the future tense. Plunder is who will come upon them. So
that's why I was asked about Nebuchadnezzar. It looks like talking about a prediction as opposed to talk about the past.
Yeah, what they do in Stone Chumash is, Tanakh is they put in brackets like they've added in to explain it, will grow in their tense. In other words, this is something that's going to happen.
I'm just confused. So if it means they will move on from their plunder and Egypt will hold them fast or gather them or whatever, I'm just confused, like what it's predicting exactly.
The way I read the translation, but also the comments, is that they've gone away from their place because of the many plunderers who will come upon them. So they are the plunder, I guess. People will attack them looking for plunder as opposed to plunder that they would be seeking.
And can Egypt just be a euphemism for any foreign place, euphemism for Babylon?
That's a good question. Let me see if my guys have anything to say about that.
Sorry, I changed the whole thing.
That's fine.
That's a bastard.
It does say that Mof was like the place in Egypt where they would bury everybody. He doesn't say. I don't think he says anything super specific about Egypt here.
My footnote says that it's an Egyptian city usually identified as Memphis.
It's usually identified as what?
Memphis.
Oh, interesting. Okay. That's cool. Yeah, he doesn't. All right. Yeah, I don't know. All right, so good. So this is a great example of just like one word of how you translate showed could lead to all these different meanings of a pasuk. I don't have a conclusion on that one. Okay. Ba'u yemei ha-pekuda, ba'u yemei ha-shilum, yedu Yisrael evil hanavi meshuga, ish haruach al rov avonecha, barabba mastema. All right. The days of punishment have come for your heavy guilt. The days of requital have come. Let Israel know it. The prophet was distraught, the inspired man driven mad by constant harassment. This definitely leaves lots of room for alternative translations. Does anyone have any immediate one to share?
Yep.
Great.
The days of punishment have come, the days of requital have come. Let Israel know and then they put in brackets here, meaning they're interpreting this as false prophet is a fool. The man of spirit is mad. Because of the abundance of your iniquity, the enmity is great.
Great. Okay, right. So JPS takes the iniquity part and moves it up to the top for your heavy guilt to the second clause. Interesting. Does anyone else have a different translation? Just so we can compare. Okay, yeah. So I just wanted to point out a couple of things about the way that it's translated here. So Navi Meshuga, oh no, Ivel Hanavi Meshuga Ish Haruach. So the inspired man driven mad. And I'm not sure why inspired man. I mean, Ish Haruach is a man of the divine spirit. So I think Janet's translation was better, frankly. I don't remember what it said exactly. But yeah, definitely better than this one. Let me just check real fast what my guy says.
Ruth, is he referring Ish Ruach? Is he referring to himself?
Right. So
that he's been driven mad?
Yes, I mean that's what my guy says is that Ivel and Meshuga Ela Kinuye Gnai Lenavi Haemet, right? These are sort of disrespectful names terms to refer to a Navi Haemet, right? A true prophet, as opposed to Navi Sheker. Yeah, so he seems to say, yeah, that's what he seems to imply. Yeah, which is a great observation. It's enough to like drive me crazy, right?
I actually think of it as two different people. One is a prophet and one is a spiritual leader. So he's referring to two types of leaders within the Israelite community. That's what makes sense to me. Ba'u Yemei Pekuda, I would say it's like Ba Yom Adin. This is
interesting.
When you would come to judgment, and Ba'u Yemei Shlem, and this is what the days where you would pay, I guess, for your sin. And then Israel knew, I don't know what Evil, how did they translate it? A Navi. It's a description of what the Navi, of what the prophet is. And crazy is the spiritual man.
Okay, that's interesting. To see it as two different ones. Yeah, he doesn't hear. Ay. All right. Okay. So,
he does.
Sorry?
I said in the translation from Sepharia,
yeah,
it says the prophet was distraught and the inspired man driven mad. So
yes, right. They seem to make it two different people. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so Fe Ephraim im Elohai Navi Pach Yakosh al Kol Drachav Mastema Bebeit Elohav. So we see that word mastema again. Ephraim watches for my God, as for the prophet, fowler snares are on all his paths, harassment in the house of his God. Right. So as we see that the prophet is driven mad by constant harassment, now we also have mastema bebeit Elohav.
They have a footnote from a Barbanel.
Okay.
Ephraim set up prophets who claimed that they were with my God, but they were false prophets, as the verse goes on to explain.
Okay, I see. Followers. Okay, got it. Interesting. All right. Okay. Miku shichetu kimei hagiv'a yiskor avonam yifkod chatotam. They have been as grievously corrupt as in the days of Giv'ah. God will remember their iniquity and will punish their sins. So they've been as grievously corrupt, right? Literally, Miku, it's like it's become so deep. They've gotten so deep within it. Yeah, and so their corruption is as bad in the days of Giv'ah. It seems to be that people use this to assume this is a reference to the situation, the Pilegesh of Giv'ah, which is a really, really, really horrific story that we won't get into now. But certainly referred to, I think thought of it probably as like the most morally compromised and horrific moment in our history, certainly within the Tanakh. Yeah, so it's bad, is what we're saying. Really bad. And now we seem to look back a little bit. Ka'anavim bamidbar matzati Yisrael kivikura b'te'ina bereshita ra'iti avotechem hema ba'u ba'al pa'or v'yinazru laboshet ve'yu shikutzim ka'ahavam. I found Israel as pleasing as grapes in the wilderness. Your ancestors seemed to me like the first fig to ripen on a fig tree. But when they came to Baal Peor, they turned aside to shamefulness. Then they became as detested as they had been loved. So I saw different explanations for what it means, Ka'anavim bamidbar. Like you were like a grape in the wilderness. Maybe it's something that grows that's miraculous, or maybe it just represents, there's wilderness, there's so little that's alive, and then you find something as amazing as a grape. And it feels just, magical in that sense. But yes, certainly Hashem is saying, it started off wonderfully and it was really special. But then, of course, came Baal Peor, the biggest god of the time for all the pagan worshipers, and that was enough to turn them away. Any comments or any other translations?
I have a different take on the end of that sentence.
Okay.
Because they're saying that ke'ahava is that they were detestable when they loved and paren like the women of Moab.
Sorry, say that. They became what? As detestable?
So because ke'ahav, when they loved. So the ka is when, is what they're saying, and it's talking about they became detestable to God when they loved the Moabite women, when they were led astray at Baal Peor.
Okay.
As opposed to the contrast of just as they were loved, now they're detestable. They said they became detestable when they loved, as in the, like a more physical act.
I see.
Yeah, I have their love for when they're as Baal Peor, and it refers to their love for the Midianite women drew them into idolatry.
Got it. Okay. Understood. That makes more sense. All right, great. Ephraim ka'of yit ofef kevodam mileida umibeten umeherayon. So from birth, from the womb, from conception, Ephraim's glory shall be like birds that fly away. So we're going to see the next few verses deal a lot with pregnancy and pregnancy loss imagery. And here, one of the things that's pointed out is that it goes in reverse, right? A Laida is birth, then to beten, then in the womb, and then to herayon, to conception, right? So it's going backwards, and it's all going to fly away. And there's going to be lots of different interesting comments about like all the use of this pregnancy imagery. So please just jump in if you have something unique to see. So let's just look at the next one also. Ki im yegadlu et bneihem v'shikaltim me'adam ki gam oy lahem besuri mihem. Even if they rear their infants, I will bereave them of everyone. Woe to them indeed when I turn away from them. Right. So, yeah. So it's undoing all the acts of conception and birth, and then saying even if you manage to get one through, it's still going to take it away, right? Which of course, like, is this is very painful and very difficult for anyone who's ever, experienced anything like this before or knows someone who has, that this is like really the ultimate expression of punishment, is the loss of pregnancy, the loss of children.
The footnote, they will not live to reach manhood.
Okay. I see. Yeah. Okay. Then there's going to be more here. Ephraim ka'asher ra'iti letzor shetula b'navev Ephraim lehotzi el horeg banav. It shall go with Ephraim as I've seen it go with Tyre, which was planted in a meadow. Ephraim too must bring out his children to slayers. So Ephraim lehotzi el horeg banav. Here he'll bring his children out to slayers. Literally means Ephraim will take out his lehotzi, will take them out to the people who kill children, the people who kills children. Some people say that this is Molech, right? The god that you would worship in the ancient world by passing your children through fire. Yeah, so it's not just slayers, it's specifically Molech. Does anyone have anything similar to that or different?
Well, here the comment is that Ephraim will send its young men out to defend the country, only to be slain in battle. And that's from Radak.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I also heard that as well, especially talking about the painful nature of all of this, post October 7th. There's so much focus on the killing of your children, both in battle and everything. And, so many people who were killed were so young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's a very different between those two translations. One is sacrifice, but incorrect sacrifice. The other is actually trying to do something to yourself to protect yourself from those who would attack you, which means the Israelites are under attack. And theologically, I can't reconcile those as just two alternate translations of the same words, because one is active, so to speak, and one is passive, just sending your children to the fire.
Okay, yeah.
And it seems to me Hosea is more or less talking about these people being destroyed as passive if they don't come better. So the Moloch explanation seems to follow more of the trend than the getting up and fighting to protect yourselves does.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, let me see. Does my guy say?
You're saying you don't like the translation I have?
No. Yeah. I don't think my guy says anything super clear about that. Yeah, 100%. Okay, now let's see even worse here. Ten lahem Hashem mati ten lahem rechem mashkil v'shadayim tzomkim. Give them, O eternal one, right? Ten lahem Hashem mati ten. Give them what? Ten lahem rechem. So give them a womb that miscarries, and shriveled breasts. So I saw different explanations of why the breasts would be would be shriveled, right? Is it that they've never nursed a baby, so that's why they are, or is it that they've nursed but like, or they were prepared to, but then the baby didn't come, or whatever it is. So different explanations for why the body looks like this, but clearly it's all bound up in the imagery of pregnancy, miscarriage, etc.
Yeah, if they've miscarried, then the breasts that would have had milk in them for the baby would shrivel up.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, let me just.
Once again, this is all future tense, right?
What did you say?
I have to look.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, give them what? Give them this. Kol ra'atam begilgal ki sham sin etim al roa ma'alehem mi beiti agarshem lo osef ahavatam kol sarehem sorerim. All their misfortune began at Gilgal, for there I disowned them. Ki sham sin etim, I usually hate. Al roa ma'alehem, for their evil deeds. I will drive them out of my house. Right? Agar Shem, like really, it's from the word, ligrosh, which means also means to divorce, which would be keeping with the imagery of a bride or a cheating wife, etc. I will accept them. Lo osef ahavatam. I'm not going to love them anymore. I don't know why they translated here as I will accept them no more. Right? It's love. And all their officials are disloyal. Okay. Does anyone have translations that are more reflective of what I just said?
Yes.
Okay, what do you have?
All their evil is in Gilgal, where I hated them. For the evil of their deeds, I will banish them from my house. I will not continue to love them. All their officers are rebellious. It really goes with the way you translated it.
Yeah, more literal translation. Yeah. Anyone else have anything like that? Okay. All right.
It also says it was a center of, in a footnote, it was a center of idolatrous worship.
What was?
Gilgal.
Oh, Gilgal. Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. Okay, 2 more psukim. Hukai Ephraim Sharsham Yavesh Pri Bal Ya'asun Gam Ki Yeledun Vehemati Machmade Bitnam. So Ephraim is stricken, their stock is withered, they can produce no fruit. Even if they do bear children, I will slay their cherished offspring. That's intense. Right here it was. Where was that? Right. Even if they I'll bereave them of everyone. I guess that's the same. This just feels more explicit. I will slay their cherished offspring. They wouldn't have anything different than I will slay their cherished offspring.
It's very similar. I will
okay.
slay the treasures of their wombs. I mean, it's
okay, fine.
And I have Shurasham as their roots.
Interesting.
Because I think as opposed to I guess stock is that's what they're saying. Stock as in stock, like when you breed your stock or something, it's the source somehow.
Yeah, what is that? I was wondering why it's stock. Does anyone know?
No.
Yeah.
My translation is root.
Right. That's more literal. And I don't understand. I mean, we tend to have experts in English here. So I don't know, does stock have another meaning as well that makes sense here?
Well, it indicates like your stock, your brand, your roots, I read this all poetically anyway.
Yeah.
So
Like animals
Yeah, well,
breed.
like, yeah, they're your breed, your stock. You don't breed,
Oh,
you don't breed just any.
okay. I see.
So,
Like
Interesting.
there's the
Okay.
expression, they come from good stock, right?
Yeah,
Oh, I see what. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
true.
yeah.
Like a lineage.
Right.
your
Okay.
people, basically they're saying they're using the birth of a child and the womb and everything to say he's saying you're going to be wiped off the planet. You're going to not exist anymore. We're
Yeah.
going to thwart all your doings. I mean, I don't know. It's always dangerous when I think I understand something. So I'm not sure. That's just how I take it.
Amazing. Amazing. All
Whenever I think I
right.
understand,
What?
whenever I start to say, "Oh, I understand this," I take that as uh, a reason to go back and study again.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I'll tell that to my Gemara students. I gave them a test today. They were not happy with me. Um, okay, so last pasuk, Yim asem Elohai ki lo sham'u lo v'hiyu nodedim bagoyim. So my God rejects them. Curious if anyone has this in the future tense. My God rejects them because they have not obeyed, right? They didn't listen. And they shall go wandering among the nations.
Yeah, I have the rejection in the future tense.
Okay,
True,
of
too.
course, I think that makes more
Oh,
sense. Clearly, we're talking about the exile here, which has not yet happened. The Northern Kingdom
Right.
is still alive and well. Well, not well, but it's still alive.
Yeah.
Right. So yes, I think that makes
That's
yeah.
how Steinsaltz translates it, that Ephraim is going into exile. So
Uh-huh.
I guess if Ephraim's going, the rest of us are. Is there?
But
Mhm.
Ephraim is 10 tribes.
Right. We're talking about the north here. Yeah, right.
So
Hoshea is in the
we're all
north.
going. So that
They
means,
go into exile. They're lost.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. I think that's part of what makes this end depressing is because we know that. I mean, it's true, right? They were nodedim bagoyim. That's the same word used in the curse for Cain, right? He's going to be nud. He's going to be wandering around. He'll never be settled.
yeah. I mean, the second part of the sentence is translated in the future in the one that's on the screen. So it's consistent that they shall go wandering among the nations.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes more sense to have both of them in the future.
Right.
I
Right.
know. Yeah.
My English translation also has both of them in the future.
Okay.
My God will spurn them, for they have not obeyed him, and they will wander about among the nations.
Okay.
I have a question, Ruth.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Um, just wondering, with Yeshayahu, who's speaking more about Yehuda, wasn't he?
Yes, Isaiah's in the south. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Right, and the ones who are more positive and say there will be redemption. Was there any the well, I guess Amos was speaking about Ephraim, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. So there is still. Um, um, I just what I'm wondering about was the Nevuah that was predicting they were going to return to the land, and that Ephraim was going to return to the land, and there's certainly that kind of prediction and that kind of consolation about Yehuda, but I'm not remembering whether there was the same kind or the consolation was Bacharita Yamim, a
Uh,
much that the consolation for Ephraim was kind of in the end of days when the
mhm.
Mashiach would come.
Yeah, it's a good question.
Because that would be very interesting to know,
Yeah.
because there was certainly a difference in what
Oh, yeah.
happened to the 10 tribes versus what happened to Yehuda and Binyamin. And so it would be interesting to see whether the the nevuah was different.
Yeah, it must be. I just don't recall offhand.
I don't know. Does anybody?
What is Yirmiyahu from the second
South.
exile?
Yeah,
Yeah,
second,
he's
Well,
south.
he talks
Yeah.
about Habenya Kiri Li Ephraim,
Oh,
right?
yeah, that's right. Yellow Shoshim.
Right.
Yeah, but Ephraim is just, I think there, at least is just a general term for Israel, for the whole of Israel, I think. I don't think he was talking about specifically, because he was much later. They had already been absorbed, you know, by the Assyrians.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that Judea was threatened by the Assyrians, but they were not they were not they were not overcome by the Assyrians.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right,
and
right, right, right.
right, but Ephraim and the um, um, northern kingdom was was overcome, and they were spread out. They were just taken as slaves and
Right.
just
Mm-hmm.
you know distributed all around. So
Mm-hmm.
I really wonder about I don't know. It'd be an interesting thing to find out.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah. Yeah, the Assyrians were brutal and brutal conquerors. Yeah, that's a very interesting point. I feel like if someone says the answer is going to feel so obvious, but right now I can't recall.
Yeah, I wonder if
Yeah.
maybe Shmuel.
Tarikhun, as we say, we have to look into it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can I ask another question that is, I don't know, the rabbi's theology? This whole section gets worse and worse until God is going to, all the children are going to die. If they manage to survive, then I'll slay them. To me, that's like the ultimate penalty, the ultimate, you're killing off the entire people. With no children reproduce, you die out.
Mm-hmm.
And then switches in the very last verse to, I'll send you to banishment, you'll wander among the people. And so it's been building up as to terrible things. Is the theology of the rabbis that banishment is worse than the ending of the people because you don't reproduce? To me, that's better, but it seems like it's building and they think it's worse.
Mm.
And I don't know what our theology is supposed to be or what our theology is in this case.
Look, I mean, I was thinking about when preparing for today, I just, in my Gemara class, we did the material on, when you're supposed to die versus violate a commandment. And then we looked at, examples from the Middle Ages of during the Crusades, and where Jewish, and it's true of Masada also, right, where Jewish communities actually took it upon themselves to kill each other before the Christians arrived so that they wouldn't be not killed necessarily, right, but forced converted and taken into slavery. And there really isn't like halachic grounding in the Gemara for that to kill each other and yourself, right, rather than that. And yet we see that as like a very powerful phenomenon, and I would argue, possibly psychological phenomenon also, right? So it's a good question. In some ways, it depends who you ask. In some ways, yeah, it is worse to wander arguably is different than, being a slave to the Christians, right? But that the ultimate goal is to be free to be able to worship God, right? And that life without that freedom might not be worth very much at all.
So it's better to die than to not be Jewish.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Or
Yeah,
to see your children,
unit on it. It's very
or to see your
interesting.
children taken and raised as non-Jews,
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
which is what was happening.
Certain circumstances, right? There's, like you were talking about, that you're teaching right now, that there are times when they tell you to step on a Torah or commit incest or what's the third one? I can't remember right now.
Right, and kill someone else.
Kill someone.
Mm-hmm.
So if the Portuguese come to you and say you become Catholic now or die, okay.
Right, exactly. And so the question then is, why did some of the the Jewish communities during the Crusades, they didn't even wait for the Christians to come kill them. They preempted the Christians by killing themselves first, right? Which does not have grounding in the Gemara. I listened to a whole interview with someone who writes about this, Ephraim Karnefogel, and there's some stories told in the Tosfot takes stories about it and turns them into halacha, because the Tosfot is witnessing what happened in the Crusades, right? They're living like during and shortly thereafter the Crusades, so they know what happened. They're trying to basically give it halacha grounding, but originally it doesn't have it, right? And yet it was such a powerful phenomenon in Jewish history. So that goes back to that question of like, do we think it's worse to wander or to be dead? And
well, I think people converted knowing that, I can do anything externally. You'll never know what's going on in my mind.
Yeah.
I mean,
The Sephardic Jews have a saying fire doesn't burn the mouth.
right.
Oh,
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that. I've never heard that before.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Saying fire doesn't burn the mouth.
Yeah, it's because the Jews that were forced, in Spain,
They hid.
kill you.
Mhm.
They practiced Judaism in secrecy.
Yeah.
So
Right.
outwardly, okay, I'll say it.
I'll say it,
I
but
don't believe it.
Fascinating. That's a beautiful expression.
Yeah.
a woman
Make banishment better than death, because if you're banished and wander among the people, you could still secretly be Jewish.
That's
Yes.
right.
Yes.
Mhm. Right.
That would make this ordering of the curses that are basically in this section different from that translation, because this is clearly the penultimate is your disappear, your children will die and then die out as a people, and the ultimate is that you'll live, but you'll live among Goyim.
Yeah. Fascinating.
But it doesn't. It says they. There's a lot of this in Tanakh that you're going to stone your children, you're going to do this, and that there's no archaeological evidence, as far as I've heard, that any of that ever happened, because it was meant to scare people. Basically, if you don't get your children in line, the community is going to take them, and we'll take them outside the city walls, and we'll stone them to death. Well, that would make me get my children in line. So. But Ruthie, we had a woman come to mikvah last year who is of Portuguese descent. She came from Brazil. Her father changed, her great grandfather changed their name to Oliveira, so they converted everybody to Catholicism and wrote a little book, passed it down a couple generations, and said, someone's going to come back and take our name. It's Levy. And they came back and took their name back. Came to the mikvah and took their name back. So
wow.
Yeah, I mean, people, why would the halakha take that away from us? That you can say something in order to redeem your stock, to help.
I think there's this distinction between something you do in private and something you do in public.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're asked to convert in public, and you yourself know that in your heart you're not going to convert, others may see you and not understand that your motives are different from what they see on the surface. So therefore, you would be leading other people to become worshiping idols or follow